Alright, so I guess I'm streaming. It's just me for this episode, and maybe me for 2D Tuesday, unfortunately, too. I mean, it's not unfortunate that I'm here, but it's unfortunate that Phil may not be here. I'm going to be starting in a few minutes here, just running the initial like usual. If you are here and watching, please leave a comment, because I don't have any comments on here yet, and I'm not sure if anyone's actually watching yet. Looks like some people are watching. Alright, it's 7. Time to start this thing. Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of HATSWITCH by the people who brought you Cooking with Unity, or the person, or the people. Well, the person this time, but Phil will be in on more of these in the future. What HATSWITCH is it's a new show that I'm doing that doesn't focus specifically on Unity3d, and it doesn't even necessarily focus specifically on game development. What it's about is about setting up things that are related to game development, but oftentimes overlooked by other tutorials and other things. I really want to turn people out there into full-blown game developers. And one of the things, and so what this show will focus on is things like, today's episode is going to be on IT. We're going to be setting up a server in the cloud, and we're going to be setting up version control. Oh, sweet. Test verified. Excellent. People are commenting. Excellent. And the thing's updating. That's awesome. So, this episode is going to focus on IT. We're going to show how to set up a server on Amazon EC2. We're going to show how to set up Perforce on it and what version control is and do all that. But other things this show is going to do in the future is we'll probably do things like resume building. We'll do things like writing game development pitches, game design documents, things like that. We'll talk about budgeting for small business. Like I want to be able to expand this in whatever directions we need to give people the coverage they need to at least have an inkling of what goes into making a game studio. Today's episode is version control, and I've decided there's a few different options out there for version control, and most people who are focusing on trying to keep things as free as possible would probably not choose Perforce as their first choice. However, I've chosen Perforce for a variety of reasons. The main one being that I like graphical user interfaces, and I know that there are people out there who have not used command line much, and we are going to do a little command line today, forewarning, there will be command line work on here. But I want to set up Perforce because Perforce has a graphical user client that is consistent on every platform. It's the exact same on Linux. Linux is the exact same on Windows. It's the exact same on Mac. In the case of SVN, Git, and Mercurial, they're all command line programs natively, and then they usually have front ends available for different platforms. None of them have a consistent front end on all platforms. The closest one is SourceTree, and I'm not sure if there's a Linux version, but I know there's a Mac and a PC version. And the problem with that one is it's a good front end on the Mac side, but on the PC side, there's a lot of bugs, there's a lot of little problems. I know that they're working on it, but there's inconsistencies between the user interface. And so I want to do something that I know is going to work on everyone's stuff. Perforce is free up to 20 users. And additionally, what I'm going to be showing you on the EC2 should be free for one server. If this is the only thing you're setting up on Amazon EC2 for your first year, this should be free. Now, this is the free tier stuff only lasts a year. Once you've had your AWS account for more than a year, you don't qualify for the free tier anymore. So this is not permanently free. And the cost of operating a server, the way I'm going to set it up today, is about $15 a month, give or take. Amazon's AWS pricing is very dependent on use, and so if you run the server 24/7 for 12 months, for a whole month, and you don't change any of the settings that I show on this show today, you should qualify for the free tier for your first year, and after that it should be about $15 a month for that server. If you run multiple servers or do other things other than what I show you on the show, or do snapshot backups or do any other things, you may incur costs, so keep this in mind. I believe that the Amazon pricing is really good for what you get. There's also ways to decrease the pricing by getting reserved instances and stuff. I'm not going to go over that on this show, but I just want you guys to be aware that there's other stuff out there. And you can always set up Perforce on your own personal servers if you understand how to set up accessibility and stuff. The reason I'm using Amazon is because they're a great service. I trust them, actually. They have really great technical support. Their AWS stuff is super easy to use, and it's really easy to make sure that your stuff is accessible on the internet from any computer, which is great if you're working in a small group, and maybe not in the same building. So let's get started. So where are we going? Here we go. So going to be doing a lot of web stuff today. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go on to aws.amazon.com. And what this is the Amazon Web Services portal. And we're going to be setting up servers in the cloud. Now, I've already got some set up on here. Some of my interface is going to look a little different because of this. And the first time that you go here, they're going to want you to sign in with your Amazon username, which you can create a new one for this, or you can use your existing username. Normally, the logon screen would come up here, but I've already logged in, so this is what I see once I've logged in. The moment that you've set up your AWS account, you start counting down your free tier year. So the moment you start this, you want to be ready to set up a server and play around with this stuff, because if you want to stay on the free tier, it only lasts a year. As I said, it's $15 a month after that. Not a big deal, but sometimes that can be over what you're doing. And as I said, there's other options, but this is something that's easy to set up, and actually it'll be really useful for you to learn from a job standpoint. The things I'm going to be teaching on the show, these are real job skills. And IT and management of cloud servers is a big one these days. So I'm going to click on EC2 here, and we're going to spin up a server for this episode. So if I go here, I've got my resources. You're going to see 0, 0, 0 on a lot of these things. So I'm going to just go to my running instances so you can see what's going on here. And so I've got 2 servers running right now. They're both Perforce servers, actually, and they're both things I'm ITing for on my own company. Well, not my own company, but my own company, and I'm also holding over the PlayHabit servers for right now, just because we want to maintain all that data. PlayHabit is a company that I was working at that went defunct. I'm doing the IT stuff for that company after the fact, just to maintain everything that we had, so it doesn't just disappear. So what we're going to do first is we're going to launch an instance. So we're going to click Launch Instance here, and we're going to be doing a Linux instance. We could also do a Windows instance, and there's still available for free tier. Actually, let me bring up the pricing real quick. Amazon EC2 pricing, just so that you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So the free tier, what you get is 750 hours EC2 on Linux Unix micro instance. That's what we're going to be doing today. 750 hours EC2 running Microsoft Windows Server micro instance, and those are separate, so you can actually run 2 servers, one Windows, one Linux. 750 hours of elastic load balancing. I actually don't even really know what that is. We're not going to be touching that. 30 gigabytes Amazon EBS. I'm going to be setting it up with 8 gigabytes, so you'll have actually a little bit more space to work with. 15 gigabytes bandwidth aggregated across AWS services. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. 1 gigabyte of regional data transfer. So basically, if you're not using this in a huge production environment, you probably can stay in the free tier very easily. 750 hours is actually more hours than are in the month, but not by much. So if you run another server for about a day, you're going to kick yourself out of the free tier. And I don't know if it starts charging after the free tier, or if it actually just immediately kicks you out and you have to pay for the whole month at that point. But so be careful if you're worried about incurring a charge. So what we're going to be doing is Amazon Linux. The reason I'm doing that one is because it's a lighter client than Windows. It doesn't mean that we're going to have to deal with command line stuff, but we only have to do it for the very initial setup, and then the rest of the stuff can be administered from the Perforce graphical user interfaces. I'm not sure if the comments are refreshing. I'm going to just hit refresh occasionally. I'm probably not going to answer questions during the middle of the show too much unless they're applicable. Just because I need to get through this stuff, we're already 10 minutes in, and I've just done introduction stuff. I will answer questions at the end of the show, definitely, if there's anything pertinent. But so we're going to be kind of breezing through this. So Amazon Linux, AMI, free tier eligible. We're going to select 64-bit, and we're going to select here. And I don't actually care very much about the details of what we're going to be setting up. The default setup is actually very good. It gives enough memory. It gives an EBS storage volume of 8 gigabytes. And so I'm just going to hit review and launch. And so this will give us, so it gives a warning. Launch Wizard 4 is open to the world. This is automatically creating a security group. You may want to try playing around with these things. As I said, I'm just going to skip through it because all of the stuff is pretty well configured by default. And what they mean by this is basically you can access this from any computer using SSH. Which is potentially a danger. I'll show you how to seal that up after we're done. I'm just going to leave it as is for right now because we need that access anyway. So I'm going to hit launch, and then it's going to bring up the screen where it says select an existing key pair or create a new key pair. We're going to create a new key pair. The first time you're not going to have a choice for an existing key pair because you don't have one. What the key pair is it allows you to have secure access to this server. Now, even though they say it's open to the world, which it is, in order to actually connect to this, you need to have the private key to actually do it, and the key pair to actually do it. And so what this does is it generates your key pair, and then you download it, and you only get one shot to download it, and you're going to have to keep care of this thing later if you want to SSH in normally. There are ways around if you do lose your key pair. Don't freak out. As a matter of fact, email me if you do, and I'll try and help you get everything sorted out. But for the most part, just try and keep a hold of this file once you download it, and once you create it and download it. So what I'm going to call this is the HATSWITCH Perforce, and I'm going to download key pair, and this will download a PEM file called HATSWITCH Perforce, and then I'm going to click Launch Instances. So my instance is now launching. Get notified of estimated charges. So you can create billing alerts, a few other things. There's a lot of stuff that they have on here. And so I'm going to hit View Instances, and we'll see that we have a new server. It has no name. I'm going to give it a name real quick. HATSWITCH Perforce. I'm just going to call it the same thing. And this is starting up and initializing, and I'm not going to wait for it. So connecting into this on Mac OS and on Linux is actually really easy because Mac OS and Linux both have SSH built in and SCP built in. Windows, however, does not. So I'm going to switch over to Windows. Now, Windows people, don't freak out when you're about to see my interface because I apologize in advance. All right, Windows. I know you probably haven't seen Windows look like this in a long time. I rock Windows XP and virtualization because I haven't actually bought Windows 7 for myself. I haven't bought Windows Vista. I haven't bought Windows 8. I like XP. It's very clean and lean when you're running it on a virtual machine. It is starting to show its age, as I put here, and it's showing its age even more than usual because I've decided to make it look like Windows 2K because that is still my favorite Microsoft operating system to date. And so bear with me. Your interface is going to look a little different, but the concepts are going to be the same. So first off, we're going to have to download a SSH client. What SSH is it stands for Secure Shell, and we're also going to have to download an SCP client, which is Secure Copy. These are command line functions that allow you to connect to a server securely and manipulate the server as if you were on it yourself. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to just search for SSH Windows, and it's going to bring us to PuTTY almost immediately. Actually, there's an advertisement for Van Dyke here, but yeah, what you're going to want is PuTTY. PuTTY is a free SSH client, and they also have SCP clients, and you can download PuTTY here. I've already downloaded it. What you actually want is the PuTTY 063 installer.exe. This will be the least troublesome to actually set up. You can also download them individually if you know what you're doing with command line and stuff. I defer to you if you know what you're doing. Just do what you do. But if for the people on this show and for myself, we're going to set this up using their installer. So I've already downloaded this, and it's on my desktop here. So I'm going to double-click PuTTY and go through the installer. Now, your installer may look a little different depending on what operating system you're on, because these kind of change in looks, but it should be the same concept on everything. So I'm just going to have it installed into PuTTY, and I'm just going to hit next, next, next. And might as well associate PPK files with PuTTY, and we're going to hit install. And so I'm going to go ahead and view the README. So I think once it's installed, we should have SSH available. So if I go to run and type in cmd, we'll have a command line prompt, and I should be able to do SSH. No, PuTTY SSH. Okay, naturally. Okay, so you want to put your installation on your path. Okay, I didn't want to manipulate the path in this case, so I'm going to cheat. Basically, in order to access something from command line, it needs to be on your path if you want to access it in an easy way. I thought the installer was going to automatically put things on my path, which is part of the reason that I was doing PuTTY through there. Actually, let's see, PSCP. Yeah. Where is the actual... Alright, we're doing this differently. I'm not going to use the installer. I lied. PuTTY. So what we're going to grab is, I'm going to grab, so PuTTY is our SSH client, so I'm going to download PuTTY. Let me just make sure PuTTY didn't work. PuTTY, that's so lame. And because I don't want to have to go into how to set up the command line stuff, because this actually changes a lot depending on which version of Windows you're running, and so I'm just going to actually put this into System32 so that it's accessible. If you know what you're doing, go ahead and set up a link to your path variable and actually change the stuff. I may make an addendum to this video later that actually shows how to do that, but I can't. It's as I said, it's different on every platform at this point. So I'm going to download PuTTY, I'm going to download PSCP, and I'm going to download PuTTYGen. These are the three that we're going to need. So PuTTYGen I'm going to keep on the desktop. And yes, Cygwin will also work. I wanted to avoid having to have people... Cygwin, I think, is a little bit complex when it comes to things. But maybe I should have gone with Cygwin. I don't know. We're going to do this for now. So I'm going to go into Windows, System32, and I'm going to drag in PSCP and PuTTY into here. This is because this is already on your path. It means that we don't have to add anything. These will just now work in command line. So I have to create a new command line. So now, as far as how to get to command line, if you're on Windows XP or Windows 2000, you're just going to go into Run and type in CMD. If you're on Windows Vista or 7, you can do search and CMD, and it'll open up CMD as well. And if you're on Windows 8 or 8.1, I actually don't know. I think if you search for it, you'll find it. If not, go on the internet, search for a command line, and I'm sure that you'll find a way to access your command line. I'm sorry, I'm not really familiar with Windows 8 at this point. So now if I do PuTTY, we should get something. Okay, so it actually brought up a interface. That's interesting. We're actually going to be using it like a command line, though that's cool that it has a UI as well. In order to connect to our server, we're going to need that file that we downloaded from Amazon, which is on my Mac side here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over. So if you were on Windows, you would have already downloaded this somewhere. So I'm putting it on my desktop. And this file will not work for Windows directly. You actually have to use PuTTYGen to convert it. So we're going to open up PuTTYGen. And people who aren't on Windows, bear with me here. I will try to have a link that skips all this so that you can see the Mac stuff. The Mac stuff is a little bit easier to set up. And the Linux, I'm not going to show you an exact example, but it should be very similar to the Mac side. So we're going to load an existing private key file. and we're going to choose all files, and we're going to open up on the desktop here HATSWITCH Perforce. And it will say successfully imported foreign key. To use this key with PuTTY, you need to use save private key command to save it into PuTTY's own format. So we're going to save the private key. Are you sure you want to save this key without passphrase to protect it? I'm going to hit yes. You probably should use a passphrase for security reasons, because it means that if someone actually gets a hold of your file, you're not going to they're not going to have access to your private key information. But I'm just going to hit generate and not worry about it here. So now we have HATSWITCH perforce.ppk file, and this can be used for actually I think, is ppk what I wanted? Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but I just wanted to make sure. Load, yeah, ppk. All right. So now we have something that we can use to actually go into our Amazon Web Services stuff. So I'm going to open up AWS again on the PC side here. Log in. So we're going to go my account console. It's going to ask me for my login info. I am an existing user. So I'm going to go into our EC2 stuff here again. And I'm going to go into running instances. And at this point, we should be able to... okay, so it's already running. So our server is up and running. So I'm going to click it, choose connect, and then it gives you this instruction. So find out how to connect using PuTTY. You can probably click this and get a little tutorial. I'm going to show you how to do it real quick. So we're going to I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to paste it. Now this by default will not work because we don't have SSH. We have PuTTY instead. So I'm going to move over here, and we're going to change this to PPK because PuTTY wants it in its own special format. And we're going to change this to PuTTY. The rest of the command should work just as is. And so it's going to give a warning. The server's host key is not cached in the registry. Go ahead and hit yes, because we trust this host, so we know what we're connecting to. Server sent public key. Oh, come on. What does that mean? Unable to open file. Did I misspell it somewhere? Oh man, why does things work well when I'm doing my rehearsals and work poorly when I do stuff live? Really should just have done this as an offline video. Alright, so what does that mean? So I'm gonna hit this again and see what happens. No support authentication methods available. Alright, maybe the server's just not quite ready for us yet. I'm going to try connecting to it real quick on the Mac side here. Yes. Permission denied public key. Alright, let's make sure that the launch wizard actually set this thing up properly. So I'm going to go into security groups, check out launch wizard 4. So it has SSH, it's open to the internet. This is weird. It says the status checks are okay. Huh. Bear with me here. My apologies. Oh, message file is a directory on this one. Maybe I'm just having something similar here. Unable to open file. Okay, that's the problem. for some reason it's not. Oh, duh. Okay, I'm stupid. I'm not actually in the folder that has hatswitch.ppk. We need to change directory, so cd desktop. That was my stupidity, sorry about this. And I'm going to hit up a couple times, and here we go, hatswitch buddy-i hatswitch perforce ppk. I'm going to hit enter, and there we go, we connected. Yay, alright. So now we're connected, and we can start doing our command line stuff. So, sorry about the mistake there. Could happen to anyone. Glad it happened on the show, quite honestly. So, so if you guys haven't done command line stuff, cd changes directory. Your default directory is usually your home directory, and then so desktop is one thing up. If that's not exactly where you put the file, like if you put it into downloads, it might be under like your My Documents downloads. I'm gonna hit refresh on this. So we're connected here. I'm not actually going to do anything on the server from here though, because I'm going to show it to you on the interface I'm more comfortable with. But this is how you get connected in initially using Windows machines. So I'm going to close this session, and we're going to go over to the Mac side. So now on the Mac side, you're going to probably, when you're doing this, you're going to use Terminal. And I am going to be using iTerm2, which is something I have installed, and I've got it configured, and I like it. But it's going to be the exact same commands, the exact same stuff that you type in here at this point. So I'm instead going to show you on my interface that I have here. So I'm going to paste in. So again, the way that we got this is if you hit connect, we get this nice already built example of how to SSH into our server. So I'm going to go ahead and SSH into the server from here. So again, I have to actually change directory to downloads on the Mac side because that's where I've put my key. And then I'm going to paste in the SSH. And it's required that you're okay. So on Mac, you have to do one extra step because they want to make sure that that people can't access your PEM file easily. So you're going to have to do chmod 400 hatswitch perforce.pem or whatever your PEM file is called. Once you've done this, now you can SSH and it will connect you. The first time it'll say, do you trust this host? Type in yes, and it will add it to your known hosts list, and it won't complain about that in the future. So now we are actually connected to our server. I can do ls, and it doesn't do anything, but ls is list stuff. It shows, it's not list stuff, it means something, it means list, but it shows the directories in here. But I'm in the home directory. I could do cd ... to go up a directory, and I could do ls, and you can see that we're in the EC2 user directory. This is where we're going to install our files. The nice thing about Amazon is it's really easy to spin up instances, it's really easy to do this stuff, and putting things in the user land space actually kind of makes sense for the way that you can configure your services. If you are a very stickler IT guy, you probably aren't watching this video anyway. So set it up however you want to set it up. I'm not condoning a particular way of setting this stuff up. I'm just setting this stuff up this way because it's easy, and because it works very well in the Amazon instance stuff. So I'm going to change the directory back up to EC2 user. And our first order of business is to get Perforce installed onto this thing. So I'm going to actually hit Control-C to... Wait, no, not Control-C. I'm going to type in exit to disconnect from the server. And we're going to download Perforce, and then we're going to upload it to our server. So I'm going to search for I'm going to go to perforce.com. And actually, I will answer questions if you ask them on the way, because I think this is going a little faster than I thought it was going to. Assuming that Perforce responds to anything. Should have pre-downloaded this. I don't know what I was thinking. Come on, Perforce. Oh, come on, please. All right. So while I am waiting for this, is there anything we can do in the meantime? I know what we can do. So I'm going to reconnect in again, SSH in. And so it says run sudo yum update to apply all updates. This is usually a good practice, so I'm going to do this. Sudo yum update. And all this is going to do is it's going to download and update all of the built-in software on your Amazon Linux installation. So I'm just going to hit yes and hit enter, and I'm going to go back to what I was doing before. So this is actually stuff happening on the server. It's not downloading anything on your local machine. It's actually directly interfacing with the server at this point. And it will be fast because Amazon has thick pipes connected to the internet. It's really awesome. Unlike Perforce, for whatever reason. This also may be exacerbated, admittedly, by the fact that I am streaming live right now. Though I really should have had this pre-downloaded. I may even have a copy pre-downloaded. Let me see. Nope. No, I do not. That's a shame. Alright, so we're going to select free 20 user edition. And we're going to go into, in my case, I'm doing Macintosh. Oh, wait, we're not, server. So we're going to be downloading the server here. And what I'm going to select here is we actually want Linux. And we want Linux 2.6 for 64-bit Intel x64. This is the best choice for our server. I'm going to hit accept and continue. It's going to bring up a screen is like, would you like to register? You can skip registration and the download will happen just fine. So while that's downloading, oh man, the upload's probably going to be even slower. Maybe there's a way I can get this link directly somehow. The problem is Perforce likes to really hide their... Let me see if there's a Perforce FTP. Perforce FTP. Should have done this earlier. ftp.perforce.com. Perforce. So 14.1, is that the newest one? Yeah, that's not what we want. What is the number that we're seeing on the Perforce website? By the time I have this figured out, it's going to be downloaded. Anyway, I'm just curious if there is a nice little FTP we can use to do this. Perforce.com. Knew I had forgotten something. .3. So let's see if ftp.perforce.com 13.3. Alright, bin Linux x86-64. Okay, there we go. So we could probably directly download this from, let's do that. So we want P4D. I'm going to copy this link. And so I'm connected to my EC2. It just finished doing its thing. So let's see if I can't just get this via FTP. If I do FTP, does this do something? No, FTP, SFTP. Alright, so let's see if we can just directly download this. Connection reset by peer. Let's not use the HTTP prefix. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to bother with it. I'm just going to do the thing that I know is going to work. So I've got P4D downloaded now, and so it's in my downloads folder. The only difference to what we're going to be doing here is instead of using SCP, we're going to be using PSCP, which is the PuTTY SCP client if you're on Windows. So otherwise the command is going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to disconnect from my Amazon EC2 instance. And I'm going to go ahead and paste back in, not paste back in, I'm going to go ahead and go back up a couple here. And we're going to set this to, so we got the SSH command here. I'm now going to do an SCP command. This is a copy command using SSH, and it allows you to copy a file from your local machine onto a remote machine. And so, I believe, I'm going to double check the syntax here, so let's see, SCP syntax. So, remember, when in doubt, search the internet. So your username at remote hosts. So remember, we're going to need to use -I is going to give us our PEM thing, and again, you're going to use PBK if you're on Windows, and you're going to use PSCP on Windows. Otherwise, the command is going to be the same. So we need the -I in the HATSWITCH perforce.pem file. Then we're going to need, so we want to copy foobar.txt from the local host to your remote host. So we tell it what we want to copy, and then the directory we want to copy it to. So what we're going to copy after Perforce PEM is, we're already in download, so I'm going to do P4D. That's the name of the executable that we just downloaded. And we're going to connect it into compute.amazonaws.com. And hopefully, if we just hit enter here, it might just work. Okay, looks like it did. So now if I connect back in, so we're going to go back to SSH and connect in. And if I do ls now, you should see nothing, absolutely nothing. So where did it actually copy this to? Alright, let's exit one more time. Give it a specific directory. Oh yeah, I didn't even give it a file name, so I don't even know why that didn't give us a red flag. So we're going to do :p4d, so that'll be the file name. Alright. Node name nor server name provided or not known. Some remote directory. Alright, let's try this again, except for I'm going to do /tilde/p4d. Why? You're killing me. It's so easy. I don't see why anyone does this. Has anyone seen that video of the Unix, like the Linux guys? Like, I use Linux. I've got a Beowulf cluster of Atomic Superman, and so easy. You just have to patch your kernel and do all this stuff. Well, anyway, so sorry about the struggling. Hopefully you'll understand that we're all human on this one, and we will get this working. I want to give it a so. Is it because I'm here? I'm just going to see what happens if, so SE2, oh wait, that was SSH, I did the wrong thing. So we want to do the colon here. Okay, that was the right problem, P4D. Okay, it was because I was doing an SSH command, sorry. So there we go, it's transferring the file. It's uploading right now. Hopefully my stream will continue to work while it's uploading. And we're almost done here. Alright, so it is now on the server, theoretically. So if it doesn't exit SCP, I'm just going to hit Control C here. Oh wait, it automatically exited, so don't do that. It'll just exit when it's actually totally done. So now we're going to SSH back in. And we should see, if we do ls, there's our P4D executable. Yay. So I'm going to create a new folder to put this in, just in case you want to use your server for something else. As I said, if you are only running one server, you should be eligible for the free tier, even if you're using it for multiple services. So if you want to put your web stuff up here, or if you want to play around with your EC2 instance for other reasons, or if you just want to play around with command line and see how this stuff works, you can do all this stuff. I'm going to put P4D in its own directory. If you were just setting this up as an appliance, it really wouldn't matter. You could just run it from here, but we're going to do that. So to create a directory on your EC2, we're going to do mkdir. That means make directory, and we're going to make the directory locally here. So it's just going to be called Perforce. And so if I hit ls again, you'll see P4D and Perforce. Now we're going to move P4D into Perforce. So mv P4D Perforce /P4D. So now, if I do ls again, we don't have it there anymore. We're going to do cd Perforce ls, and there we have P4D. Now, in Linux, the way you run an executable from your current directory is you do // and the name of the executable. Now, this is not going to work initially. So it's going to say permission denied. ./p4d permission denied. And the reason for that is we need to actually set p4d as executable. So the way we do that is you do chmod +x, that means executable, p4d, and you hit enter, and actually it works because we're in the user land space. If you're somewhere else on the server, you might need to use sudo along with this command to make it actually work, but in this case we don't need to do that. Now if I do else again, it's actually a slightly different color of green from the terminal. You may not get color depending on how your terminal is set up, so but it actually does have a different color when it's executable. So now if we do ./p4d, we're now running Perforce on this server. Now, right now I could go into the admin tools, start setting up Perforce. We're not going to do that just yet because I want to show you something else. So you see how it says Perforce server starting? It's actually done starting after it shows that line, and it'll actually show you stuff on the output here as you do things. But if you disconnect from SSH, it's not going to continue running. And there's a few different ways to fix this. The way I like the most is using screen. So I'm going to show you how to use screen here. So I'm going to hit Control-C. Now remember, all this stuff is the same on Windows and Mac once you're actually connected into these servers. The only commands that change are the SSH commands and SCP commands. You just have to change the name slightly, and you have to change whether you're using a PPK or the PEM files. And if you have any problems, email me, pushypixels@pushypixels.com. I will happily help you. So what we actually wanted to do is we wanted to run this in a screen. So if you use screen, this creates another terminal interface that looks just like the one we were just in, but is actually kind of separate, and you can disconnect from it and it will continue running. So I'm going to do screen-s with a capital and give it a name. So I'm going to use Perforce as the name. This is so we can reconnect to the screen and see how things are running later. So if I do this and hit enter, you'll see it looks like I've just logged into the machine again, and I have actually through this program. And so if I hit ls, we're right back where we were. We're still in the Perforce directory, and I can do ./p4d, hit enter. It'll say Perforce server starting, and then to disconnect from screen, you hold Control and type A and then D, and that detaches from your screen session. So now we're back on the server still, but we can still do things, and P4D is actually running in the background. And we can get back to that screen by doing screen-R. And if we just do screen-R, it'll connect us to the last instance that we were on if we only have one, not screen. So if I do screen-R, you'll see it says Perforce server starting still. So it's actually still running, it's still in the background. You hit Control-A-D, and you come back out here. And if you have multiple screens, you could actually have another one. So like I do screen, -s, play around. And I could do other things, and then I could, Control-A-D from here. And now if I do screen-R, it will actually say you have two that you can connect to. So you need to actually give it a name or the ID. So if I do play around, it'll connect to that one. And so I don't care about play around. I'm going to hit exit here, and that will completely get rid of the screen. And then if I do screen-R again, it should reconnect me to the Perforce. So Control-A-D. You're going to remember that one, A-D. You can look this up online and just say, how do I detach from screen? And so now we're going to actually exit from our instance because our server is set up. We likely will not have, if you don't have to do any, in most cases, you won't have to connect in command line ever again at this point. You can just leave this thing running in the cloud, and it will be happy as a lark, and it will just do its stuff. The only times that you'll have to connect in is if something bad happens, like Perforce for some reason crashes. This is very rare on Linux instances. This is very rare on Amazon stuff, just because they have so much redundancy and so much backup internally to make these things continue to operate. They're all operating virtually. So I still don't see any new comments from past 24 minutes ago, which kind of scares me. But I'm just going to continue working anyway. So so now that we have Perforce set up on the server, and actually I'm going to not cheat here. I forgot to do this ahead of time. So I want to go to Preferences, P4 Perforce. I'm just going to delete my Perforce stuff here. No, that's going to be a pain. Okay, whatever. I'm just going to leave it. So the first time you run Perforce, it may give you a slightly different screen, and you're going to see some of my Perforce stuff. So we're going to run P4admin. You can download these from the same place that you downloaded P4d, though you want the client stuff, and you'll download them for your appropriate platform. So this time you don't want to download Linux, you want to download, if you're on Mac, you want to download Mac. If you're on Linux, you want to download Linux. If you're on Windows, you want to download Windows. And inside of it comes with P4admin, P4v, and P4merge. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into P4admin, and we're going to connect into our server that we've created. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new, I'm going to create a new connection. So open connection, and we're going to go back to our EC management console and look over here for our public DNS. I'm going to copy this over, and we're going to paste it in here and leave the :1666 at the end. And go ahead and give your username whatever username you want to use here. I'm just going to call it Max for right now, because the first time you connect in is how you configure the server. So I'm going to hit OK. And we'll see if this does anything right. Always scares me when windows don't immediately disappear when you hit OK. Oh, it's not going to work. There's one more step we have to do. So right now, the server's running, the physical server's, well, the virtual server's running, Perforce is running, but we don't have access to the port 1666. This is like firewalling in your home thing. So we're going to go to our security groups, and we're going to go to the Launch Wizard. It'll probably be Launch Wizard 1 for you. In this case, for me, it's Launch Wizard 4 because I've done this a few times. And we're going to create a new custom TCP rule. Port range is 1666, and just hit Add Rule. And then we are going to apply the rule change, and now we should be able to connect externally to Perforce. Perforce uses 1666 by default. That's what I'm going to keep it at. You're welcome to use your own port numbers if you prefer. So now I'm going to try this again. I'm going to hit OK. Come on. All right, it failed. Operation timed out. So is it actually getting the right IP? It looks like it. Let's give it one more shot here. No such user. All right, new. So I'm going to create a username Max, full name Max Million Row, whatever. Password, we're going to call it Funtime. Funtime. Obviously use your own password. And I'm just going to put my Pushy Pixels emails here. It doesn't really matter that much what you put in for your registration information, but it can be helpful from an administration standpoint if you need to contact people. So I'm going to hit save and see if this actually works this time, and hit OK. Okay, there we go, we connected. And it says, if you proceed, you'll become the sole user with super user access. You will need to specifically grant other administrators super user access in order to use this, for them to use this tool. Do you want to proceed? Yes. So here we are. So I've got a user. I should be a super user. It's not showing me as red just yet. Let me just see what it does when I do edit user. Oh, it's beach ball. Oh, it crashed. Sweet. Ignore. Let's open up P4admin again. It's funny, all this went really smooth earlier. So let me create a new connection again. Open connection. And we're going to hit OK. At least it saved all that. And I'm going to hit yes again. And I'm going to wait for it to figure out what it's doing before I click anything at this point. Just going to see if it's figuring out what's going on. How is everyone tonight? I'm actually having a really good time doing this episode. I hope you guys are having a good time too, and I hope that my mistakes haven't been too distracting on this. As I said, it's not. This isn't rocket science, but this is a little bit more complex than this type of stuff that we usually do on the show. And so is this thing gonna... Okay, so I'm gonna click this. Here we go. Why does it still not show me as a super user? All right, let's check out what's going on our Amazon thing. I'm going to SSH back in, and I'm going to do screen-R. All right, failed authentication check, RPC receive errors. So we have some activity here. Maybe that's part of the problem. So I'm going to hit Control-A-D again and exit from our server. And what is going on here? I'm going to go ahead and quit P4admin. Let's try it from Perforce. I'm going to go to P4V and see if I can get any better luck on here. So we're going to paste in our IP again. I'm going to use user max, workspace max. I'm going to hit OK. No such client. I'm going to hit OK. Without a client spec, and it says depot. We appear to be connected. I'm going to look at the users here. View tools, users. Where's users? Okay, there's not a users list. There's only a workspaces list. Alright, well now that I've connected through here, let's see what the server says. SSH in here. I said we weren't going to be doing any more of this, but obviously we're troubleshooting at this point. So, no weirdnesses, I guess. I'm going to Control-A-D again. I have no idea what's going on, but that's okay. I'll hang out there until shmup. Maybe I'll learn something here too. Yeah, hopefully you will. What we're doing, like, the ultimate reason for this setup is going to become more apparent as we actually start using the software, and I'm actually going to start using Perforce on the show so that you guys understand the process for version control. It's important stuff to learn. It's important even if you don't have a group that you're working with. Generally, people say you don't need version control until you're working with a group. I think you need version control immediately. I think it's incredibly vital because basically it allows you to recover from critical mistakes while you're developing your apps and games. So I'm going to try P4admin again. P4admin, come on. And we're going to click on the EC2. I will become the sole user with super user assets. That's fine. Do it. Do it for real. It did it for real. Hallelujah. Okay. Don't know what that was about. I'm going to assume it had to do with my streaming. Just had to massage it a little. So now we're a super user. You can see the user max here. And it comes by default with a depot. I'm going to delete this depot. We're going to just obliterate it. And hit obliterate. Yes, that's fine. Okay, and we deleted pretty much nothing because there's nothing here. And so I'm going to now create a new depot by going to File, New Depot. And let's call this HATSWITCH test. So what you're going to do is you're going to create new depots for like new projects. You want a depot per project or for project category. Some people like to do subdirectories and depots, and that's fine too. I usually like to do a separate depot for each project, especially considering the new version of Perforce free edition allows you unlimited depots now. Before there was a limit, and then I would have recommended using subdirectories. So there's a bunch of different options here. I'm going to go with local because they're usually the simplest to administer, and I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to, again, delete depot here. And so now we have HATSWITCH test here. And we've got our user, and now we can actually connect in through the non-admin thing. So I can quit P4admin at this point. P4admin is what you'll use to create new users and set up new user accounts if you have multiple people using this stuff. So now we're going to connect in with P4V, which is the main Perforce client. And again, we're going to, what did I do with that? There it is. We're going to hit OK here and connect in. And we're going to create ourselves a workspace. So I'm going to create a new workspace. So by default, it filters to your username. I like to click this to make sure that we're not filtered. And I choose right-click and choose New Workspace. This works on Mac and Windows and everything else. It's all the same now from this point onward. So I'm going to create the workspace name, and I'm just going to call it Max as well. Workspaces represent your connection to the depot and your mapping of how the files go to your local machine. And I'll explain that as we go through here. And I'm going to go ahead and switch to the new workspace immediately. And so the first time you do this, it's going to say, do you want to add files to server? I don't like using this wizard for this, so I'm going to actually close this and show you how to do it the old-fashioned way. So we're going to open up this workspace here, double-click it, and I'm going to edit it. So right now, it defaults to having a workspace mapping that gives you access to your depot, which this gives you all files into the mapping, and it shows you where your files will be stored locally when you sync files to the depot. So this is where you're going to be storing your project files on your computer. I'm actually okay with this for the demo, but you can change this to whatever you want. If you're on Windows, it'll be like C:, something, wherever you want to put your Unity files or for this project. I'm going to just go with the default here of Dragfire/Perforce/Max. And actually, let's just do Dragfire/Perforce. I'm not using that right now, right? I think I have special names for all mine. Nope, I already have one called Perforce. What was in here? Okay, I'm just going to not do that then. So we're going to put it in HATSWITCH Perforce for now. And then we're also going to need to change the workspace mappings. So if you click here, you get the text-based version of your workspace mappings, and then you can modify them. And what I'm going to modify them for, as I said, this is for Unity3d, right? So we're going to map this appropriately as if we had a project for Unity3d in here. So we want all the files in HATSWITCH test, so that stays the same. But then we want to exclude, and the way you exclude in Perforce is with a negative, a few things. So we're going to exclude HATSWITCH test / library / and then we want to map it the same on the other side. We're going to exclude HATSWITCH test / library / temp / and same thing here. We're gonna map this the same way, temp. And finally, and actually I usually like to put this above here, we're going to get rid of, we're not going to map anything that's in the root directory that isn't a directory. So switch test / star wait, no, HATSWITCH test, I think it's, yeah, star, and then / actually let's do star.star, and / max, and this will be your username, whatever you set it, star.star. And so what this means is we're going to ignore all things in the root directory that are files. We're going to ignore the library files because we shouldn't be checking those into Perforce. That's the way that this is the best practices for Unity3d. And again, temp files we don't want to be checking into Perforce either. Best practices for Unity3d. So if I hit OK here, it'll say copy all latest versions of the files. It doesn't matter what we choose here because there's no files on the depot. So I'm just going to hit do not copy. So finally, now that we have this set up, I'm going to open up Unity, and I'm going to create a project into this folder, which I may not be able to do directly, but let's give it a shot. So we're going to do set, and we want Actually, I'm just going to type in HATSWITCH Perforce. Is that what it's actually called? Okay, it's not here yet. Perfect. So HATSWITCH Perforce. I'm going to create project. And so we have a new project here in Unity. I'm going to minimize this. What the heck happened? Okay, yeah, sure. Whatever you want to do. Okay. Alright, I'm going to go back to my layout. My layout! No. Alright, whatever. We'll just do wide. This looks close to what we usually do. I'm just going to make this not look stupid. I'll have to fix this before the episode tonight. Alright, so we have a project we've created in HATSWITCH Perforce, and I'm going to create a C# script called just temp, just so that we have something in here. And I'm going to go ahead and save the scene too, so we'll have test level.unity. Hit save. So I'm going to quit Unity. You don't have to quit Unity between doing check-ins and stuff, and we're going to do our first check-in here. So if you go to the workspace, it'll show all our files that we have there. We have assets, library, project settings. And we're going to now do a reconcile offline work. What this does, it will automatically look in your directory for any files that have changed and add them to your pending submission list so that you can submit them to Perforce. So I'm going to do reconcile offline work, and you'll see that it finds local files not in depot. It finds a whole bunch of them. We haven't modified any files because there's nothing in the depot. We haven't deleted any files because there's nothing in the depot. So we're going to hit reconcile, wait for a moment, and now if we go to our pending change lists, I know this is a lot to take in right now, and I will go over more of this on the next episode, and also on the 2D Tuesday, we're probably going to set stuff up for Perforce as well. I'm going to try and get into the practice of doing it for the show so that people get comfortable with working with source control, because I think it's really important. So, so if you click your default changes, you'll see that we have all these files that we're adding to the depot. And so I'm going to right-click and choose Submit. And it says change list description, so we're going to say initial commit. This is your information as to what you've done. So like if you had made something in your project, like if you had changed something in a script, you want to put that in here so that you can later, it's like, oh man, that change I made totally broke everything. So you can go back in here and revert it and change things and do whatever you need to do. So we're going to hit Submit, and it should upload all the files to the server. And so now the server contains your files. And as you can see, it did not upload the stuff from library because we've ignored that. If there was a temp directory, it didn't upload the temp, and it did not upload the stuff that's in this directory itself, which there's not anything currently, but if you were to open up MonoDevelop, there's a lot of files that get added that you actually don't want under version control. And woo! So there we have a server running in the cloud, Perforce server. We've done our first check-in. I know that a lot of this doesn't make sense right now. A lot of this doesn't, you're not going to see the benefit of this until we start working with it more. But thank you for bearing with me, and hopefully this will help out someone who was trying to set up version control in the first place. And hopefully on the next episode of HATSWITCH, or maybe even just in the next episode 30 minutes from now on 2D Tuesday, we'll set things up and start working with version control. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and hit the adjust the face. Thanks for joining me. Again, hopefully that wasn't too bad. I'm going to see if I can answer some questions. Why so complicated to use Bitbucket and SourceTree? Yeah, I don't trust SourceTree. I'm going to tell you that right now. I trust Bitbucket. Bitbucket's a good service. But the thing is, I've used Git a few times, and I've used SourceTree a few times, and I've worked with other people on a project, and we were what I would consider technical people. Everyone involved was programmers. We weren't. This wasn't like an artist running in here and damaging things or anything. This was smart folks, and we've had actual data loss because of Git. And I'm not saying that it was Git's fault. It was our fault. But Git makes it real easy to shoot yourself in the foot. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've been using Perforce for 10 years, and I've never shot myself in the foot with it, even when I was learning it initially. And if you ever have someone who is not a technical person, I know this seems like really complex right now, and it's going to be complex the first few times, but I'm going to also integrate this into Unity for you guys. I'm going to be making a plugin for Perforce. It's going to be free. That'll make it so that you almost don't even have to worry about it, and it'll just do everything that you need to do. But for right now, it's going to be a little bit bumpy. And the thing is, like, if you know how to use Bitbucket and Git, use it, absolutely. And I'll probably do a show showing how to set up Bitbucket, showing how to set up SVN on Beanstalk or on your own servers. If people are interested in that, I want to provide it, and those are all really useful skills to have. Perforce, as I said, I trust it a lot more as far as data integrity, preventing data loss, preventing shooting yourself in the foot. It is a little bit more complex to use at first, especially the initial setup. This is going to be the hardest thing we do is the initial setup. SVN I actually like a lot. It's super simple. I actually like SVN. It's not my favorite. Perforce is actually my favorite. But SVN I like a lot because it's simple. It's super easy to use. I've never shot myself in the foot with SVN. Never lost data on SVN, but I have had SVN get into bad server states. I've heard that SVN 1.7 fixes a lot of that, but I haven't used it that much on the new version. And the thing is, I can always fix the problems I've run into, but like when my friend Justin, who is an artist, and he's a technically inclined person, but he doesn't care about this stuff. He has situations where he has to call me in the middle of the night. He's like, Max, it's not working. I'm like, okay, use SVN cleaning. It's like, still not working. I'm like, okay, delete the directory and resync and do all this stuff. And it feels like I have to do that occasionally. Git, I haven't seen it get into a bad state by itself very much, but as I said, during certain branch and merge operations, you can really destroy data. And if people are working with it in slightly different ways on the same team, you can really step on each other's toes really easily. I just think Perforce is one of the safer ones to use, and so that's what I want to kind of focus on the show for now. I know I'm probably going to regret this later, but I really do think that it's a really good thing to learn, and as I said, it is. I'm not going to regret this later. Actually, I'm pretty sure that I would regret doing SVN later because I know I'm going to get. The thing that would be the worst for me in the world is someone being like, I lost all my data and it sucks. I would feel terrible about that, and I want to help in any way. And in Perforce, it's really hard to do that unless you go into P4 admin and explicitly choose obliterate depot, and you have to do like 3 check marks, as you saw, to actually do that. What's the difference between P4 and Git source tree? It's the same concept. They're both version control. They just work differently. And source tree, as I said, is really good, but I found that on the Mac client it's great. On the PC client, I've run into problems and inconsistencies, and I've had trouble with it. Git is fine. I have a problem with it just because it doesn't have the concept of locking binary files, which honestly we're not going to have that advantage in Perforce until I provide you guys a script for tighter Perforce integration, because Unity doesn't respect file permissions, file read permissions. And I'll explain what that means probably on the show tonight when we're playing around with this stuff. So, is there something like GitHub for Perforce, something free, even if it's public? There may be. I haven't found a good one. This is free for the first year at least. And as I said, it's about $15 a month after that, which is pretty low on the grand scheme of things. You can get it cheaper too if you do if you reserve instances. Right now we're doing a spot instance. What I did there, you can just spin up a server at any time. But if you know that you're going to be running your server for an extended period of time, you can get cheaper prices by doing a reserved instance and paying for like 6 months in advance. But yeah, there probably is something out there for Perforce. I don't think there's a free one. I think there's some cloud service ones that have stuff already set up. We could have also probably gone with a P4 AMI that was already pre-set up and already running. The reason I didn't do that is because I actually kind of wanted to show you Amazon, the dirty side of Amazon EC2, so that you can spin up your own servers. If you know something about Linux, this is actually going to benefit you even for not Perforce. Like if you wanted to run a Quake server, or I know Quake, that's really old. That was a stupid example. If you want to run a Battlefield server, you could spin up Amazon instances and run the server executables on there. And so, I mean, this is more versatile than just Perforce in what I've taught. And I know it's really complex. I know there's a lot to take in, and I know this is a little bit higher than the difficulty that I put on the show normally. And so I want to thank you guys for hanging in there. And please feel free to ask me questions. As I said, I'll go into this a little bit more on probably the show tonight, unless it really is at the detriment to the show for some reason. Which if it ends up being complex, I'll probably dump it for right now and then wait until I have a plugin hooked in. And the plugin I'm going to be making is going to be targeting Unity Basic. I want to make sure that it works for free. And so, anyway, thank you for joining us tonight, and I'll see you in another 20 minutes for 2D Thursday. You guys have a great night. And now I'm just running the camera for a little bit, and I have no one to talk to, so I'm probably not going to say anything. I'm just going to run the camera, because when this thing gets cut off at the end, why is it complicated to use debug source tree? And that's fine. If you've got that set up already, go with it. Maybe I should make that Perforce free service. Like, if there's not one, maybe I should do it. I could use Amazon. That's the best part. That's what everyone else is using on their back end. It's hilarious. Like, you got these big companies like Dropbox is Amazon EC2. They're doing the same thing in the server maintenance that we are. As a matter of fact, when you create a Dropbox account, I'm almost certain that they spin up a instance for you, or at the very least spin up create a new volume for you and just attach it EBS backed. So it's pretty cool system, actually. You can do a lot from command line. There's a reason people like Amazon EC2. I really like the service, actually, and I'm admittedly not a power user yet for it, but I really like the service. It's the cost is good. And I'm outside of the free tier. I don't get the free tier anymore. So, and that free tier is awesome that first year when you get to play with it. And it's good that they did it because it allows you to kind of get familiar with the whole system. Maybe I should have done the Windows server, because then people would have... No, but then I have to do remote desktop, and that's not necessarily native on other platforms, so this will probably work. Anyway, see you in 20 minutes. Come on. Testing.